Hello, voices in the head. I'm going to make a response to your video. I'm going to try to make it a one-parter, but I got a lot to say. I got some notes too. Uh, your video talked about American vanity, and there's some things I agree, and some things obviously I'm disagreeing with, or I wouldn't be making this video. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is it is true that kids, at least in my generation, were brought up to think that we were number one and Americans. Being an American meant you were, I hate to say it, it's hard for me to even admit it, but as a kid, you thought if you were an American, it made you not necessarily better, but the country was better than any other country. I guess that's the best way to put it, that we had the best country in the world. And I guess it does breed arrogance and a sense of superiority. So I agree with you on that point, but I don't agree that this is still being done today. I can speak for myself. I in no way intend to rear my children thinking that they're better than people around the world. I think it would be a little foolish since their mother is not from the United States originally. So I don't think it's being done today. I want to talk about your friends. You said you had friends that, love to go to Las Vegas or Disney World or Disneyland, and love to visit some of the places here in the United States, but they felt that when they came to this country, they were being singled out because they were Mexican. And I would like to say this. I think that, and you talk about, another thing you talk about us looking through a fishbowl and not being able to judge ourselves. I have traveled around the world as well, and I've also lived outside of the country. So I have a pretty good perspective myself on, on the way people look at the United States, and as well as the way people who haven't left the country think. Being that I am someone who is from this country. And I wanted to say that your friends, I think, it's hard to broad brush or broad stroke because everybody has different experiences. But there is a chance that your friends are overly sensitive as well due to, they've had some tension here over the immigrants that have come over the border for work. And so what I mean by sensitive is there is a possibility that your friends ran into some assholes. And not assholes because your friends were Mexican, just assholes. And they're in every country. I'd be willing to bet that 98% of the people your friends ran into didn't treat them this way. But the 2% or 1% that treated them a certain way were assholes. I think every country has at least 1% of assholes in it. And they're going to stick out. And so your friends aren't going to tell you, yeah, I met Bob, and man, Bob invited me over, or we went out to eat together, or we shared a trip to Magic Mountain, and what a great guy Bob was. No, they're going to tell you, Jerry treated me like I was the dirt. Jerry is an arrogant American, and Americans are like Jerry. That's my opinion on that. Now I'm going to wrap this up with my wife also, before she ever visited this country, had the same assumption that she would be treated badly coming into this country because she's from South America, and and things that she had heard. And so the first time we visited my parents, we were coming from I lived in Portugal, and we were coming from Portugal to visit my parents, and we came in through New York. And let me tell you, New York people get a bad rap. They're really very nice people, and treated us overly nice. And not just, I think they treated everybody coming through this way. And this is after 9/11, by the way. And we went and visited my parents, and this is more than one time where we flew into the country and this has happened. When we were going back to Portugal, not only did I get treated, and I rub it out, I just, off my shoulder, it doesn't bother me. I'm American. If you're going to treat me like a jerk because I'm American, that's obviously not my problem, that's your problem. So it just rolls off my shoulder. I'm like, whatever, I just have to see this guy for 2 minutes, and I'll be on my way. My wife took it a different way. She showed her non-U.S. passport and treated us like dirt. Um, and as a matter of fact, any other business, you could complain to the boss, and the person would probably get fired. Yeah, it really treated us bad. And also, Spain, where she has relatives in Spain, and she was living in Spain. Same thing. They really treated her. And I'm not going to say everybody. I know people in Portugal. I am friends with people in Portugal. Very great, nice people. So I'm not saying everybody in Portugal is this way. And not everybody in Spain is this way. But there are that 1 to 2% of assholes that are. And if you run into them, you get a certain feeling. You get a certain... And suddenly it blows up. That's what you see. So in the same way, I'm not saying people from Spain and people from Portugal are like this, then you shouldn't say that people from America are all like this. You know what I mean? And one other thing, France. I've never been to Paris, but I know non-Americans and I know Europeans and Americans that have been to Paris, and every single one of them said, people in France are nice, but the Parisians are assholes. Now, certainly, it'd be cruel of me to say that everybody from Paris is this way. But this is just, this is what I'm being told from a sample of people. Is it true? Well, these people seem to think, and maybe they were blinded by, the 2%. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next subject. Well, I do want to say that pride is ridiculous. For me to say I'm proud to be an American when I had really nothing to do with being, it was just simply circumstance that I was born in America. It had nothing to do, I didn't produce it. I didn't pick, oh, I want to be an American, and I didn't steer my parents or my ancestors here. It'd be the same as me saying I'm proud to be white. Why? I had no real choice, did I? Pride is really ridiculous, but every country has pride. My wife, from her country, those people are very proud, and economically, it's a poor country. So really, pride is just, I think it's silly, but every country has it. And being that the United States has been an economic power and a superpower, sometimes I guess overly obnoxious, some people do get. Okay, another thing, you're talking about foreign policy and how you're sick of the wars in the United States in wars. Now, as far as Iraq, I don't know. I didn't agree with Iraq in the beginning, but I know it's not over freedom and democracy. That's pretty stupid. It's over influence and resources, and that's what all wars are about. But I will say this: it seems that people always point fingers, and the United States government it gets its due fingers pointed at for good reason. But I would say this: the United States would not be able to do these things that you talk about without support. And I'm going to name some countries: Germany, Italy, Japan, Kuwait, just to name a few, and China. If Germany, Italy, Japan, and Kuwait simply said, you cannot use our airfields and airspace to transport or to bring wounded in or whatever, whatever role they play. If that government said no, the United States would not have this, it would not make it logistically possible for the United States to go into places like Iran, or Iraq, sorry, Freudian slip. And as far as China, why did I throw China in there? This whole war was funded through borrowing money from China. If China would cut the United States off from the borrowing, then it wouldn't have been possible. Not only that, of course, China is not going to do that. Why? China depends on the United States to buy their products. It's a real interesting circle. It's a recycling of their money, really. But China has interest. China is doing a lot of things that are very, and they're under the radar a little bit, that are very unethical to other people in other countries. but like I said, they're sort of flying under the radar. So, um, a lot of people that point the finger, that aren't Americans, that point the finger at the United States for things like war uh, or the world problems, really don't look at their own government. For instance, the country you live in, Mexico. Mexico is a very wealthy country, right? It's run by quite a few, very few people at the top, while millions and millions are below the poverty line and having to go to another country and work for very little money doing manual labor. So I think people could point the finger at their own government and see that there's a lot of problems, but it's always easy to point the finger at somebody other than you.